My first year working as an aircraft mechanic was a big reality check, and honestly, this job has taught me way more than I expected. When I first got into aviation, I thought the biggest challenge would be learning the aircraft systems, reading manuals, or turning wrenches. But after a year on the floor, I realized the hardest lessons were things nobody talks about in school. So today I'm going to share the 3 biggest things I learned during my first year as an aircraft mechanic. And if you're in A&P school, thinking about getting into aviation, or you're brand new in the industry, this video might save you some frustration. Let's get into it. So one of the first things I learned is part shortages. Part shortages can completely ruin your day. Before I started working, I thought aircraft maintenance will look like this. You find the problem, you order the part shows up, and you fix the airplane. Sounds good, right? Yeah, not even close. There were times where an aircraft would be down for something super small, and we would be waiting a few days for that one part to show up. The crazy thing is, sometimes it's not even a complicated component. It could be a small seal, clamp, connector, O-ring, or a little tiny piece of hardware. And without it, the aircraft isn't going anywhere. That was one of the biggest shocks to me, because passengers see airplanes flying every day and assume everything is running smoothly behind the scenes, but maintenance is constantly adapting. You learn really fast that aviation is heavily dependent on supply chains, and when parts are back ordered, everybody feels it. From what I've seen, Cessna doesn't have parts sometimes, and that's really frustrating, or MD doesn't have parts sometimes. I remember waiting 10 months for a gearbox overhaul because MD didn't have parts. And it's from the factory. You're the factory, like you're supposed to have that part. You're supposed to support your product. And it's really frustrating when they don't have that. Because of this, maintenance gets delayed, and then schedules get messed up, and then pressure builds up. Get that bird back in the air. I also learned that mechanics spend way too much time researching parts, checking paperwork, and coordinating than people realize. It's not just turning a wrench all day, and that had to teach me some patience, because sometimes there's literally nothing you can do except wait. And in aviation, you can't just make it work. If the approved part isn't there, the airplane stays grounded, and safety always comes first. And that's something I had to learn and gain respect for during my first year. And before I go on to my next point, if you're new to aviation, thinking about becoming an aircraft mechanic, or already in the industry, let me know what the biggest lesson you learned early on is. Drop it in the comments. My second point is that dropped hardware will land in places you didn't think was possible. If you drop hardware, it will somehow teleport to another dimension. If you drop a bolt from 2 feet off the ground, it's suddenly gone forever. It's like it physically disappeared. If you're a mechanic, you know what I'm talking about. You'll hear ding, 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 and then it's silent. And then you're looking on the floor with a flashlight, trying to find that one washer or bolt or missing piece of hardware. And then you keep looking, and it somehow ends up behind a panel, or inside insulation, or under equipment, or in a place that absolutely makes no sense. And also, always account for your tools and hardware, because in aviation, losing hardware isn't just annoying, it can become a safety issue. That's another thing school doesn't fully prepare you for, how serious tool control is. Every tool matters, every fastener matters. You can't just shrug it and say, it'll be fine. No, you stop what you're doing and you go find that missing piece of hardware, even if it takes 3 hours to find. So when this happens, you gotta slow down, stay organized, and double check everything. Because the moment you rush, that's when the socket or nut disappears into the abyss. I remember I dropped a nut into an engine exhaust area, and I thought I ruined the engine, but no, I just got a magnet and then got it out. But that could have been catastrophic. I could have destroyed a super expensive engine. So just be careful when you lose stuff like this, and just be careful of how you're working, and careful of what is under you, and careful of how things might drop, and just always be aware of that. All right, my final point. I didn't know as much as I thought I did. That's probably the biggest thing I've learned. When I first started, I came in, I didn't know how much of my schooling I was going to use. I finished my school, I passed my test, I learned what I needed to. I thought, okay, I'm ready. But then I got into the real world and realized, oh, A&P school teaches you the foundation, but experience is where the real learning starts. There's a saying that your A&P is your license to learn. There are mechanics with decades of experience that can diagnose problems with sounds, a smell, or a tiny vibration. That's just crazy to think about. And the more mechanics I work around, the more I realize how much knowledge exists in this industry. Aviation is one of those careers where you never truly stop learning. There's always a different aircraft, a new system, a weird problem, or a situation you've never seen before. And honestly, that's kind of humbling to think and hear about, but I think it's a good thing because overconfidence in aviation can be dangerous. The best mechanics I've met are usually the ones willing to ask questions. They don't pretend to know everything, and during my first year, I learned that asking questions is way smarter than acting like you know it all. I also learned that making mistakes doesn't mean you're a bad mechanic, it just means you're learning. And what matters is owning the mistake, fixing it, and then learning from it. That mindset changes everything. Now, instead of trying to prove yourself all the time, you just focus on improving every day. So, yeah, that's pretty much the three biggest things that I've learned. Of course, there's more, but I just wanted to simplify it down to three: part shortages, hardware having a mind of its own, and lots to learn. But honestly, that's part of what makes this career interesting. Every day is different. Every aircraft teaches you something. And even on stressful days, it's pretty cool knowing that you work on machines that literally fly. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one.